The scent of polished leather and fresh espresso hung in the air as the glass doors slid open with a dignified sigh. A hush passed through the luxury showroom, not because anyone stopped talking, but because the energy shifted. She walked in. Alien. Faded jeans, worn-out sneakers, and a homemade white t-shirt with a hand-stitched logo barely holding onto the fabric. Her hair was pulled back into a loose, messy knot. No makeup. No jewelry. Nothing that screamed money. But her eyes? They didn't flinch. They scanned the showroom like she belonged there more than anyone else. She made her way to a gleaming midnight black Rolls-Royce Spectre, the kind of car that didn't just sit in your driveway, it announced you to the world. She ran her fingers lightly across the hood, as if she were checking the soul of the machine. A salesman noticed. Young, slick, and too sure of himself. His shoes shined brighter than his personality. He strolled over with a grin that didn't reach his eyes. "Hi there," he said, pausing to scan her from head to toe. "You sure you're in the right place?" Alien looked up, still calm. "Yes. I want to know more about this model." The salesman chuckled under his breath. "Sweetheart, these cars start at $300,000. He pointed toward the glass doors with the kind of grin people usually save for stray animals or lost tourists. Behind him, two other employees exchanged glances. One even smirked. A couple sitting on a velvet couch gave her a full-body scan, as if she were part of the entertainment. Alien's cheeks burned. Not with shame, but with something sharper. She said nothing. Just turned. And walked out. No scene. No words. Just silence. And yet, the room felt heavier when she left. The morning light glinted off the showroom glass, catching on chrome edges and polished fenders like a spotlight waiting for its star. Inside, the dealership was alive with chatter. Coffee steamed in branded mugs, and yesterday's stories were passed around like appetizers. The salesman from before, the one with the smug smile and designer loafers, was already mid-story. She said she wanted to test drive a Rolls. He laughed, mimicking her voice with exaggerated innocence. Wearing a t-shirt with threads hanging off it. I almost felt bad for her. Laughter followed, easy and careless. Then, silence. It rolled in like thunderclouds on a blue sky day. Outside, a Rolls-Royce Spectre pulled up to the curb. But not just a Spectre. The Spectre. Midnight obsidian, matte finish with silver accents that shimmered like starlight. The vehicle didn't drive, it arrived. Effortlessly. Commandingly. Every eye turned. The engine gave one soft purr before cutting off, leaving behind a silence so complete, you could hear the ticking of a wall clock. The back door opened. Slowly. As if even the car knew to set the stage. A man stepped out first. Tall, composed, radiating quiet power. Tailored suit, dark sunglasses, and the kind of presence that didn't need to introduce itself, it was felt. Like gravity. His watch peeked from beneath the cuff, a rare Patek Philippe. No flash. Just legacy. He paused. Then turned to offer a hand. And she stepped out. Alien. Not the girl from yesterday. Not quite. Her hair was swept up into a sleek twist. A fitted black dress traced her silhouette with grace, not extravagance. Her heels clicked softly against the pavement. A subtle diamond glinted at her collarbone, not big, not loud, but unmistakably real. She didn't look around. She didn't need to. Because every single person was already looking at her. And the salesman? He went pale. Alien and her husband stepped into the dealership like they owned it. Because in that moment, they did. Not a word spoken. Just the soft sound of her heels on the marble floor, echoing like a countdown. Employees froze. Some stood mid-sip of coffee. One of the junior salespeople actually whispered, "Is that her?" to no one in particular. And the salesman? He stood there, stiff, caught between a nervous smile and the sinking realization that he'd seriously messed up. Alien's husband walked straight up to the front desk. "Excuse me," he said, voice calm but cold. "I'd like to speak with the manager." The receptionist blinked, then nodded quickly. "Yes, sir. Of course. Right away." The salesman stepped forward, trying to reattach his mask of charm. "Hey there, good morning," he said, glancing at Alien with a twitch in his jaw. "I believe we met yesterday, didn't we?" Alien looked at him. Just looked. As if deciding whether he was even worth remembering. Her husband tilted his head. "You're the one who told my wife she didn't belong here, right?" he asked, tone casual, too casual. The salesman laughed nervously. "It wasn't like that. I mean, I didn't know she was worthy." Alien interrupted softly. It wasn't loud. But it landed like a slap. The room froze again. Her husband turned slightly toward her. "What model did you say you liked?" Alien ran her fingers along the seam of her purse and finally smiled. "The Spectre. Midnight Obsidian. Same as ours." He nodded. "We'll take another one," he said, loud enough for the entire staff to hear. "This one's a gift. For her sister." The manager appeared just in time to catch the last part. His expression shifted from confusion to panic as he took in the scene, the car outside, the frozen staff, and the customers now pretending not to watch. The salesman's face drained of color. "But," Alien's husband added, glancing at the man, "he won't be handling the sale." The manager ushered them into the VIP lounge like his life depended on it. And maybe it did, at least professionally. "I'm terribly sorry for any inconvenience yesterday," he began, already sweating. "We pride ourselves on offering every guest a premium experience." Alien didn't respond. She sat down gracefully, crossed her legs, and looked around the lounge, not at him. Like she was checking if the art on the walls was original. Her husband smiled faintly, leaning back in the leather chair like it was his office. "I assume the Spectre in obsidian black is available." "Of course," the manager nodded frantically. "We can process everything today." As the papers were being prepped, Alien wandered out of the lounge, slow, effortless, as if she were gliding. She stopped at the corner of the showroom, where the same salesman now stood stiffly, organizing brochures with trembling hands. Alien watched him for a moment. Then she spoke, her voice soft and deadly precise. "You didn't ask what I did. You just looked at what I wore." He swallowed hard, turning toward her. I didn't mean any offense." "No, you meant exactly what you said," she interrupted, locking eyes with him. "You saw someone who didn't look like they belonged. So you tried to make me disappear." The salesman looked down. "You were right about one thing," she continued. "This place wasn't for me. Not the way it is." A pause. Then she smiled, not cruelly, but with a calm certainty that chilled him more than any insult could. "I'm going to change that." She turned and walked away, leaving him standing in the wreckage of his assumptions. Back in the lounge, the paperwork was nearly done. Her husband looked up as she re-entered. "Everything all right?" he asked. She nodded. "Just tying up a loose end." The Spectre was being prepped for delivery. Alien and her husband sat side by side in the lounge, sipping espresso the manager insisted they didn't need to pay for. Outside the glass, employees whispered. Customers pretended not to stare. But inside, a different conversation was unfolding. "You didn't have to come with me," Alien said softly, tracing the rim of her cup. "I know," he replied. "But I wanted them to see." She glanced at him, then looked away. "It's not about the car," she added after a beat. You know that, right? I do, he said. It's about all the doors that get slammed before they even ask your name. Alien exhaled through her nose. She was calm, but inside, there was fire. 3 years ago, she had worked in a garage. Not some corporate chain, a real, oil-under-your-nails kind of place. She rebuilt old cars, piece by piece. Restored engines. Rewired dashboards. She could tell the age of a car by its scent when it pulled in. She was good. Damn good. But she was invisible. Then, out of nowhere, came him, the quiet investor with soft eyes and old money. He brought in a ruined 1972 Mustang and asked if she could make it run again. She did more than that. She made it sing. And somehow, along the way, she fixed something in him, too. He fell first. She took longer. But she always did her research, even on people. Now they built cars together. Customized. Redesigned. Their company had been featured in magazines, and their waiting list was 18 months long. She never put her name on the front, she didn't need to. She was alien. To most people, a stranger in the wrong room. But in truth, she designed the rooms people were trying to get into. I could have bought that car yesterday, she said quietly. I know. I just wanted to see what they'd do. Her husband smirked. They didn't disappoint. The car was ready. Polished to perfection, engine purring like a promise. The manager practically sprinted over to hand Alien the keys himself. But she didn't take them. Instead, she slid a small, sleek business card across the glass table. I'll have the car delivered to a different location, she said. This dealership is too, she paused, predictable. The manager blinked. Of course. Where shall we send it? Alien didn't answer. Her husband took the card and tapped the logo gently. A silver emblem, sharp and elegant, shaped like a phoenix in mid-flight. Beneath it. PHNX Automotive Design. The manager's face changed, confusion turning into recognition. Then disbelief. You're the founder of PHNX, he stammered. Alien simply smiled. The junior staffers nearby froze. One pulled out his phone under the table and started Googling. The whisper spread like fire in dry grass. She owns PHNX. That's the design firm Ferrari just partnered with. Wait, she's the one behind the nightshade concept. The salesman, the one who laughed at her, waved her away like trash, just stood there. Silent. Pale. The weight of it all hitting like a freight train. Alien finally turned to him. 3 months from now, I'll be opening a boutique dealership. One that doesn't judge customers based on what they wear. Or where they're from. One where people like me won't be laughed at on entry. Her husband added, and we'll need staff. People who can recognize value beyond the surface. People who know what respect looks like. The salesman's mouth opened slightly, like he was about to speak, maybe to apologize. Maybe to beg. But Alien had already turned away. As she passed by the Spectre, her Spectre, she paused. Looked back at the glass doors of the showroom. At the stunned faces. The stillness. The silence. I won't be back, she said. But you'll remember me. And with that, she walked out. Not to prove a point. Just to move forward, as she always had. 3 weeks later. The glass facade of the new space gleamed beneath the soft morning sun, not just clean, but intentional. Matte black window frames. A signature curved roof. Soft uplighting even in daylight. There was no massive logo. Just a single word, etched in steel. PHNX. Inside, the air smelled like leather, cedarwood, and innovation. Alien stood in the center of the unfinished showroom, clipboard in hand, hair in a bun, sleeves rolled. Workers buzzed around her, installing track lighting and adjusting the positioning of a turntable display. But when she moved, they paused, not out of fear, but respect. She walked like a conductor directing a silent orchestra. Every inch of this place had her fingerprint. The color palette. The lounge seating. The smell of the floors. This wasn't just a car showroom. It was an experience. And it wasn't made for the ultra-rich. It was made for the underestimated. A teenage girl in overalls wheeled a trolley past her, paused awkwardly. "Miss Alien? I just wanted to say, thanks. For letting someone like me even apply here." Alien smiled, the warm kind, this time. "You're not here because I let you. You're here because you earned it." The girl beamed and kept working. Later that day, she stood beside her husband on the balcony above the main floor. He sipped his coffee. "You ready for opening day?" Alien didn't answer right away. She watched the floor below, the details coming together, the rhythm of effort. The space was alive. She turned to him. "I'm not doing this to prove them wrong," she said. "I'm doing this to prove us right." He reached for her hand, and they stood there in silence. And somewhere across the city, the salesman from before sat at his desk, in a different dealership now. No customers. No commission. Just his own echo and the memory of the woman he'd laughed at. Opening day. No velvet rope. No red carpet. No pretentious gala. Just glass doors that opened both ways. A line had formed before sunrise, not influencers, not elite collectors, but real people. Mechanics. Engineers. First-time buyers. Curious minds in hoodies and steel-toed boots, side by side with CEOs who were invited, not assumed. Inside, the space glowed. The showroom had no sales desks, only quiet lounges and consultants who listened before they spoke. Test drives were booked without judgment. Names were remembered. Coffee was free. Alien moved through the space not like a CEO, but like a host at her own dinner table. She shook hands. Shared stories. Answered questions about torque, not resale value. Smiled with her eyes, not her teeth. A young couple approached her, hesitant. "We thought this place was only for people who could afford everything," the woman said, clutching her husband's hand. Alien's smile was warm. "It's for people who value what they earn. And for those tired of being talked down to." They nodded. She pointed them toward a consultant. "Go see Kira, she'll walk you through the electric series." No pressure. Later that evening, when the crowd thinned and the showroom quieted, Alien stood alone near the entrance. Her heels off. Hair down. Just her and the soft hum of the lights. A familiar face appeared at the edge of the glass. Not him. But someone like him. Another salesman. Expensive watch. Perfect posture. Confused by the lack of price tags and champagne flutes. He hesitated before walking in. Alien turned to him and smiled. "Hi," she said. "Welcome. Can I help you?" He looked at her, really looked, and something flickered in his expression. Recognition? Regret? Maybe just the uncomfortable itch of self-awareness. But she didn't wait for an answer. She turned and walked away, barefoot, calm, whole. Because this story wasn't about him. It never was.